Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy Jonathan Macri with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. And it literally just occurred to me. Shout out to APJP who's producing this episode. He just asked me and Jeremy, do you guys need to do it, like run through anything before we start recording? And I'm like, no, we've done this before. And it occurred to me, we've been doing now like recaps of this nature. We started with 1920, right? That was the first year we started getting the flow of what would eventually become this show, right? This like weekly recap show.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is like our fifth season. It's wild.
Right?
Yeah. Time flies.
Does it? I guess
and yet everything stays around the same.
It's also it's different. The only thing different about today than maybe some past years, I literally just saw you like almost less than 24 hours ago. Shout out to our mutual friend / employer, Bernardo Zarowski, who
doxing me on the pod. Here we go. It's fine. It's on my LinkedIn.
I was about to say, people know your name. They really. Listen,
no, my employer. That was but yes, it's very easy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So yeah, shout out to Bernard, who held a lovely Halloween party, which featured many, many small children running around. You know what I was thankful for? I don't know if you've ever been to a child's birthday party where, I guess, I don't understand how people's minds work. I guess because they think that there are children at the party, that there should be no drinking going on because children don't drink. And it's like they ignore the fact that there are also adults there. Bernard, not only does he embrace the fact that there are adults there, he didn't even serve like beer. It's just like, here's a giant bottle of tequila. Here's a giant bottle of rum. I don't even know, were there mixers out? You were at one point, we're looking to make a drink and you're like, what do I do here? My poor.
Yeah. So what I settled on was, there was some good
what'd
tequila.
You do?
So I added tequila to the cup and then I took one of the juice boxes and used that, and I like squeezed all of it out as a chaser. And apparently Bernard did the same thing. Had no idea. So
yeah, well, good precursor for the way the Knicks played that night. For all we know, the Knicks may have done the same before they went out.
Very possible.
Yeah. Very, very possible. Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. I don't. So we're recording this on Sunday. The only nice thing I could say about what the Knicks did on Saturday night was it was not the most dreadful New York sports thing that happened this weekend. Which, boy, that game should have ended in a tie. Did you because you're a Giant fan, did you watch that?
I didn't. I watched Red Zone instead because I just didn't want to have to deal with it. I think
good for you.
Even though the Jets won, we all lost, but obviously the Jets won. So yeah. Congrats to the Jets fans. It's a great season that we can move on to now. It's all basketball for me, which is okay. You know, and the Rangers winning. So that's nice for the moment, but no, it's really the focus on basketball and that's how it should be. So excited to watch the Knicks, even though they have a pretty rough schedule to start the season.
Well, yeah, okay. We'll get there. I was watching Nuggets Thunder on my phone for what it's worth. That team's good. Nuggets are good. Things to aspire to. Okay. Knicks basketball. Knicks played 3 games this week. And God damn you son of a.
Hey, easy. She watches this podcast. The beginnings, at least. Yeah.
We'll get to the predictions results later. Knicks went 1-2. It was an interesting 3 games, which we'll touch on the games as we go through what will be the subject of today's episode, which is overreactions, true, or I'm looking at Andrew's rundown, true, or get the fuck out of here. If you're asking yourself, well, didn't they just do an overreactions episode to preseasons? Yes, we did do an overreactions episode to preseason, but that's stupid because all reactions to preseason are overreactions. Now at least we have real games. So I feel like there is some meat on the bone. How much we want to chew it off, I guess will be determined. But before we get into the specifics, overall thoughts on what was a close loss to the Celtics, close win over the Hawks, and then a not no show, but like a kind of didn't have it from jump loss to the Pelicans.
The results obviously not ideal. Would have preferred to have a winning record after 3 games, but to me, it just felt like the proof of concept. It was a continuation of a lot of what we saw last season, Granted, there was some rust. There was a lot of inefficiency, which kind of is a carryover in a lot of ways if you think about it from the inefficiency standpoint. But I felt watching the Celtics game like this is a team that has always played Boston while Thibs has been here very well. They played it close. This is obviously the Celtics need to get their own footing, and the Knicks have the advantage of being there's more continuity there. But played them close. A lot of it felt like mistakes that the Knicks could correct as opposed to things that Boston could work on. Obviously, there are things Boston could work on. But I left that game feeling pretty fine about it. The Hawks game was, in my opinion, closer than it should have been. But I appreciated how poorly Trae Young played. And I thought the Knicks did a nice job of working against him. That being said, I didn't watch that game live. I watched that game later. So I knew the Knicks had won. But watching the end of the game, I hadn't realized just how close the Knicks were to not winning that game at the time. So glad they managed to pull that one out. Again, win by all means necessary. And then the second night of a back-to-back where both games are away and you're going to New Orleans for their home opener. Just didn't have it. Some players did, a couple of them in particular that we will talk about, but it looked like a team that had played a game 24 hours earlier, and 87 points isn't great. You need to work on that, but I am not really worried about the offense. I really believe that will still come, but you have to be worried about the offense if one of the two focal points in Jalen Brunson or Julius Randle is not performing like a focal point needs to perform.
We'll go through a lot of talking points now in this overreactions bit, but like if you were to distill the opening three games into a sentence, it might just be as simple as like Julius Randle I don't know why I put Julius first. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle, like as they go, so go the Knicks. I mean, that was often the case last year. If one of them had a spectacular game, oftentimes, almost always they won. And, it started to get dicier when one or obviously both of them started to not have good games. And there are ways to overcome that and so on and so forth. And obviously we have this RJ Barrett piece, which is quickly becoming quite a story. Speaking of the Knicks leading scorer. So I guess let's dive into it right at that one. I have, how many did he write down here? We have 6. I may add one on the fly. Overreaction number 1, Jeremy. Should we want to do this on like, instead of just like buy or sell, maybe we do like scale like 1 to 5, like how much we buy it.
Sure.
5, 1 to 10.
Let's do 1 to 10. 10 being absolute buy, 1 being sell. Great.
Okay. RJ Barrett is making the star leap. I noticed that is a lowercase s in star that Andrew wrote. I don't know if that was intentional or otherwise. A star leap in year 5. I'll go first on this one. I'm always trepidatious with that word, even lowercase s star. Because of the word star, I'm going to go like 5 out of 10. I'm in. Making a leap, though, into whatever the peak version of RJ Barrett is in my own personal mind, I think I'm probably more like 7 or 8 out of 10. I'm buying what we're seeing because nothing that we've seen to me feels like that it's unsustainable, or more importantly, B, stuff that we have not seen before, perhaps in smaller / inconsistent sample sizes. So I think what we're seeing from RJ is real. Your mileage may vary on like, does this portend like all-star teams, or is it something slightly lower?
I'll go with the 6.
Okay.
The reason for that being, it feels like a carryover from last season. Just in terms of the ability to demonstrate the playmaking and some better defense. The playoffs, the outside shooting still wasn't quite there. But again, it's through only 3 games. It's showing some sign of a good shot there. I think my issue is because it does feel like a carryover, but there's still separate times. Like I still need, for all of these things, right? We're going to need more data. But for this, it's kind of like... overarching umbrella over this entire conversation. It's 3 fucking games. But his innate ability as a scorer to me feels so good. Oh, I mean, again, a lot of it was, can he do the catch and shoot 3 part? Can he finish better at the rim? Can he defend better? Can he be a better playmaker? For some of these, the answer appears to be yes. And I'm hopeful that it remains, constant in that way. I think my issue is, and this goes to sort of what you were saying, the word star gets thrown around so frequently that it's hard to, like in my mind, I just want RJ Barrett to be a tremendous catch and shoot player who can cover his own ass defensively and also be an extremely reliable and efficient scorer. Right. Yeah. And I believe that if he's able to accomplish those things, then he's forging a path that will get him to stardom. It's just maintaining that. And my hope is that playing with Canada and FIBA gets him out in the front early, because we've seen seasons where he's struggled and he's had really awful droughts. And I think the thing that I went back and forth on with RJ is that if RJ didn't play well, it would be, well, he usually starts these seasons slow. And if RJ did play well, then it's like, yeah, look at how he's doing. It's kind of forming in a way where it's really a win-win. You can take from it however you'd like. And, look, basketball is for entertainment. It's enjoyable. So if you choose to believe either one, then I have no issue with that whatsoever. For me, it was just being on the same, like doing what the Knicks need him to do. And he's starting to do exactly that. So I'll go with a 6 because I want to buy into this. And just there's still room for growth. But again, I can't say like what I just said about the proof of concept, even though the results didn't show, because we have the proof of concept for RJ and we are seeing results as well.
I think the more interesting question for me, or the more interesting discussion for me, and I hope we get to have it over the course of this year, because if we are having it, it means that what we're seeing right now from RJ continues, is not so much how much a leap from him would change the calculus for this team moving forward, but in what ways would a leap from him change the calculus for this team moving forward? That to me is by far the most interesting. You could argue that that is the most interesting question that could be asked about, thinking about all the different scenarios that could unfold this year. Like RJ making a leap, how might that change their decision making as far as like how they see building this team moving forward? I'm fascinated by it. I hope we get to keep talking about it, because it means that he continues to play well. And I think that'll be a fun conversation to have. So we'll see. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So overreaction number 2, Jalen, Brunson, and Josh Hart are off to slow starts because of FIBA. I guess, but we should also probably add, like, implicit in that is that are Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart actually off to slow starts? Like, I looked at Hart's numbers today, not that numbers mean anything after 3 games, and it's like, his rebounds are where they usually are. He hasn't scored a lot. His shooting is a little below normal. He's a couple, important shots. He had a 3 in the Pelicans game that briefly got the lead down to 6, which I thought was, somewhat notable. There does seem to be a little something not off with him, but like the impact isn't what we got used to last year. And then Brunson, like, he obviously had the 8 for 12 from 3 against Atlanta, which was awesome. And they don't win the game if he doesn't do that. But he's shooting from 2-point range right now.
Yeah, isn't it? Is it sub 40%?
It's sub 30%, Jeremy. He's shooting 29% from 2, which is like, even in 3 games, I don't even think that I would have thought that would be possible in a 3-game sample size. So, I'm going to split the baby here again. It's blame Andrew Claudio. He's the one who wrote these the way they are. As far as like it being because of FIBA, I don't think that's an overreaction to the extent that they are tired and are off to a somewhat slow start. So that would be like a 7 or 8 for me. But for me, as an overreaction generally about Brunson and Hart, I'm more like a 2 or a 3. I think Brunson's going to be fine. Hart to me sounds like the guy who maybe might need a breather at some point. I don't know how or when that would happen or in what form it would take, but like, I'm not worried about either of them, I guess, is the long and the short of it.
Sure. But you're settling on 5 as a split the baby type?
4.5. I want to be under 5. Yeah.
Sure. I'm going to go with a 3. Where I struggle is every player is different. Every player responds differently to these things, but it's like RJ had played the same number of games as Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson did in FIBA, and he's looking great. So I don't necessarily believe it's the FIBA aspect of it. I think it's just
that's a good call.
With Josh Hart, we're spoiled because the Knicks caught lightning in a bottle from the moment that they acquired him and started playing. Really, from they started playing him after that Sixers game, and they just carried that momentum into the playoffs. It's a long season. He's obviously back. There isn't a playoff push right now because the season just started. Guys are still getting acclimated, even though, again, he's had time to be in this system. There was like the end of the third quarter against the Pelicans with Josh Hart was maddening. That whole sequence with the foul and the turnover, like it just,
that was bad.
But it just, I don't know. To me, I always hate looking at these samples until it's like 3 or 4 weeks in, right? Because we've got 23, 24 weeks of a season. At least that's, I know it's around that number because that's usually when you add up what our weekly scores are, it's like, well, that's pretty much it. So like, it's so difficult for me to hone in on these, but I know from the body of work that each of these players has had, like, if you're telling me that FIBA is the main reason when they still had a month-long break in between FIBA and
didn't play a lot of preseason too, which now I think we could be certain that there was a reason why they didn't play a lot because Thibs probably knew they were tired.
Sure. And again, I don't want to say like if I thought it wasn't a complete issue whatsoever, I would say it's a 1.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure. Look, they also went halfway across the world to play in these games. The time change, the style. It's a very different style of basketball. It can be very taxing, especially to players who maybe aren't as comfortable at the international level. So I think that there's something there. It's just not this long hangover where that's the reason. And also, if you ask them, is this the reason? They would both be very quick to say, no, it is not. So this is one of those things where it's like, we will never really know.
We won't, and hopefully this is something we look back and laugh on in short order. I guess it's just interesting because one of the theories going into this season amongst some, I'm not sure if this was one for me, but is that because they played in FIBA, specifically Hart, Brunson, and RJ, and I guess I've been 48 too, that they would be like better equipped at the start of the season because they would not need the customary ramp up time. And I was more focused on that. Like, do I agree with that? Maybe not really, but it never really occurred to me that that this would even become a talking point. And the fact that it is a talking point, I guess, was a little surprising to me. So, hopefully it's not a talking point for much longer. The next thing, when is this guy not a talking point? Okay. So we have 2 options here. This is the Julius Randle overreaction. So we could either go with even year versus odd year. Julius Randle is a thing, or this is a comment that came up after the game on Saturday, which points for creativity. Julius Randle is unmotivated because the Knicks have traded Obi Toppin. Let's go. Can we go with the first one?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Okay. So the every other year Julius thing. I think for that overreaction, I think is like a 1 for me because I cannot, my mind cannot get to the point where there's a thing about like every other year. My thing with Julius is I think the fact that he, for the first time in his NBA career, as far as I know it, did not have a customary offseason because he had the ankle surgery and spoke openly about how it was really difficult for him to just sit and like rehab in ways that that didn't entail his usual like basketball activities. I think that is impacting him. So the overreaction that it's like an even odd year thing, I'm going a 1, but I do think that what we're seeing from him now is like maybe the result. It's basically something other than like he just happened to have 3 bad games. I think we might be able to draw a through line between this and the summer surgery.
I feel the same way. Okay. 1 with, hey, how is his ankle? Does he need these games to really rehab himself? I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of these, the facilitating at times outside of 8 turnovers against the Pelicans feels fine.
I want to get back to that, but finish with that.
But it's the field goal percentage. It's the efficiency. It's the scoring. It's he has to be a hub on the offensive end, but if he's not able to hold up his end of the bargain and he's not able to pass out of double teams efficiently or effectively, then it's like, what value on the offensive end other than attracting more attention are you able to command if teams want to try to keep you honest? So that's where I struggle with. And my fear is it will take Julius time to get back into being the player that we know Julius can be. It's not, hey, the clock of the year turns around and it's an odd year coming and suddenly the Cinderella, like it turns back into a pumpkin. Like, I just don't see that at Shout Out Halloween. Like, I don't think that that's the reason. I just
Shout Out Halloween. I'm wearing an orange shirt. I just realized.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Knicks shirt, but it's an orange shirt.
Yeah. So I just, I hope he can be himself again. I don't think the magic's gone. It's just, he needs to get time back to being Julius.
I think the Pelicans game in particular, and certainly, I mean, the Celtics game wasn't any better, was a good reminder of 2 years ago when, like, we talked about this in like various forms that year. There are stars that when certain stars are having a bad game or even like a bad week or maybe a bad series, their gravity and like what they can do is still a positive impact on the offensive end. And I think 2 years ago, we were reminded that is not, like, Julius Randle's not one of those players because teams are never really going to be inclined to guard him as a default on the perimeter. One, and two, when he will still have a big share of the offense, and his turnovers can be, it feels like, more damaging than just like almost anything else. Like, and when I said a second ago, I wanted to get back to the playmaking. Like, I rewatched all of his turnovers from the Pelicans game, and it's like, the classic Julius stuff, like, spinning into traffic, not seeing a guy coming. Like, there was one instance where Hart threw him a pass and he literally dribbled the ball off his foot. A couple traveling violations. But like, he wasn't, I don't know if any of them, maybe one or two, like, came because he was throwing like errant passes, like, which is what you said. Like, the playmaking has been pretty good. I just want to say I agree with that. I think the playmaking has been good. Like, even with 8 turnovers, like his playmaking in the Hawks game was really strong. Like, a couple of those possessions, like, we praised RJ for what he did in the Hawks game. Julius had like arguably the better playmaking game. So yeah, I don't know. They need Julius to be good. To be good themselves. We especially with the Obi trade, that's the only part that Obi really factors into this, because Obi's not here anymore and they need his size and they need his gravity and the whole thing. So fingers crossed for that. Okay. Next one. This one has a little bit of a different feel to it after the last 2 games. The Knicks will regret not extending Emmanuel Quickley. That's the overreaction. Do you have a strong feeling about this one?
Sure. I'm going to go with the 2.
First, then. You're okay.
The reason I'm going to go with the 2 is because it's not like Emmanuel Quickley is walking out that door and the Knicks go, holy crap, he's gone. Right? I might even consider it more of a 1. The route that he'd have to go where it would be all hell breaks loose is he takes the qualifying offer to become an unrestricted free agent in 2025. The likelihood of that happening is very small, because this is someone who is likely to command, whether, on the open market or the Knicks agreeing to a contract with him, at least $80 million. And to turn down life-changing money for the opportunity to then hit unrestricted free agency, hope you stay healthy, find the right situation, get paid what you want. It's a lot. There's a lot that goes into it. So, I was asked on Twitter, where it was like the difference, but the Yankees just had to deal with Aaron Judge and they paid far more than they would have. They just spent more before. Aaron Judge was an unrestricted free agent. I mean, that's really all there is in baseball. There's unrestricted free agency. Yeah. He could have gone anywhere and the Yankees wouldn't have gotten anything for him in return. And it's not like you could trade Aaron Judge if you're the Yankees mid-season for fear of what if he walks. Yeah. It's a different story with Quickley. You can match any offer. You feel confident that you could probably get a deal done. You are more comfortable if you had to move him doing so because he's not the type of player that Aaron Judge is in a basketball sense. So look, if this lights a fire under Quickley, then that's great. I think his play is ultimately going to be around where it was last year, which was, in my opinion, 6th man of the year, winner. Didn't win, but I still believe should have. And able to run an offense that the Knicks very much need someone to run. That's his role. That's exactly who the Knicks need him to be. And I would just imagine that it will all play out exactly as it should. The only concern, of course, is do the Knicks get to free agency with Quickley or not? And again, don't mean that to spike from the last conversation we had, inciting fear, anxiety, or anything. It's just, I would have felt a lot better about his status if he had extended. But I don't
better about his status as far as confidence that he will make it through the season with the team.
Correct. But I can't, but even that aside, I can't say the Knicks will regret not extending Quickley because they have other means to keep him.
I will join you at it too. And I agree with everything you said. And for me, it's a dollars thing. I am personally, this is my opinion, capital O, not capital O opinion. I am personally of the belief that he would wanted at least $25 million a year for 5 years. So 5 for 125, or a number that is higher than that if it was for 4 years. That is my opinion. Not saying I heard that anywhere. That is my opinion based on all the reporting that I have read and just trying to read the tea leaves. I do not think so. If like that was the alternative, I am like you at a 1. I do not think the Knicks will live in dire regret that, oh man, we could have had Immanuel Quickley for 5 for 125. Boy, did we screw up, and I wish we could do that over again. That's where I'm at right now. Of everything that we talk about, I hope I'm most wrong about that. You know why? Because again, I don't know how many times I have to say it. If I'm wrong about that, if we're wrong about this, guess what Immanuel Quickley went out and did? Establish himself as one of the best young stars in the league, because that's the only way he's getting paid. The number that would make the Knicks regret not meeting his asking price already. Okay, couple more. I love Andrew. I'm just going to read this as Andrew has written it. Thibs has too many mouths to feed in this rotation. Fire him into the sun. Apparently, if you are not an apt chef, yeah, I guess chef. Although it's more like a line cook, like a cafeteria person, because they're just kind of shoveling food into the trays. That gets you fired into the sun. I am. So can I add a corollary to my number?
Sure.
My number's like my number's like a 5. No, it's a 4. It's a 4. It's a 4 and not a 1 or like a 1.5, because I think there is one specific thing that is made a lot more difficult because of the amount of people the Knicks have in the rotation, and that is Quentin Grimes' shot diet. And to be clear, I am not one of these, as will surprise no one, I am not one of these pearl clutchers who is like, oh my dear Lord, one of our homegrown players is not getting his fair allotment of shots. What are we doing as an organization, wasting our time with like Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart or whatever people say? That's not what this is. It is kind of an asset management thing where it's like, I think Quentin Grimes has the ability to turn into a really, really, really nice 3-and-D guy that can really be an asset to a good offense with his catch and shoot ability. And there is a part of me that wonders, will he get the shot diet that he needs to turn into that level of player with the amount of guys that are on this team? And I don't know the answer to that. And like, is that big of a deal? Like, if Quentin Grimes is as good as a lot of people, including me, think he can be, should it really matter? Should like the difference of like 1.5 or 2 threes a game and like an extra 5 minutes a game, should that make a difference? Like, I don't know. He's averaging over 8 threes per 36 minutes. He's averaging 25 minutes a game. It's not like the guy's not shooting. Not like the guy's not playing. There was a part of me that it has this little, nagging something like, man, I just wish there was an opportunity for that dude to get up like 8 to 10 threes a game. And that's not the case here. So
I guess from the too many mouths to feed standpoint, like, Thibs isn't the one who constructed the roster. He's the one who inherits it. I'm going to go with a 3. The reason I'm going to go with a 3 is because last year, my issue was, okay, it doesn't feel like something's working, so let's try to find a solution. And at first the solution was, well, Quentin Grimes is hurt, right? He stabilized that starting lineup, but we didn't really know that in the way that we do now because he wasn't there. And then Evan Fournier is in the starting lineup. You remove one, put the other in. It's a different situation. The other portion, though, of it is it felt like Thibs had other toys to play with, but just didn't really want to for one reason or another. And that was a criticism the year before, where it felt like he was too slow to the draw with getting Kemba Walker out, but then how it was communicated was poor, and then had to put Kemba back in, but then couldn't really take him out because of what had happened previously. Now my whole thought is like, well, what would the Knicks really do differently with the players that they have right now? Like, what is it that I would want to see that they haven't done? Like, maybe it's have Deuce play some time, but then someone has to sacrifice minutes. How is that happening? Where are we going in that direction? So everyone who I'd expect to be playing is playing outside of Deuce McBride, who is very much a 10th man, which is pretty much the role that we assumed he would be. I just thought Thibs would deploy 10 instead of 9. So I did. Yeah, look, Deuce played 60 of the last 67 games. I expected him to see time early on in the same way of this is a contract year for him too. I didn't. Players are going to be injured, but I still expect him to see, like 8 minutes a game, right? Okay. That's like 4 minutes to start the second quarter and 4 minutes to start the fourth quarter. But he has to feel like he's confident in terms of having Deuce McBride out there. I mean, obviously the whole fourth quarter of last year's Miami game 6 with the lack of spacing that they had, and Deuce was not the reason, but was part of the reason that, they let go of the rope. But that's last season. Here, I just don't really know what would change materially outside of
an injury,
the front office, or an injury. Yeah, or an injury doing something. So, but we'll see. That's what the next few games get to tell us, where it's like, cool, can we pinpoint an issue? We can. What's the solution? As of right now, to me, the solution doesn't feel like it's exactly something that Thibs can control a lot. I mean, yes. Like again, this goes back to the Randle part. If you could remove Randle, then that's fine. But it's harder to do that because there's not a suitable backup, which is not the defense to have kept Obi Toppin, but also a reason to inquire about how moving forward you can have more insurance at that position that maybe isn't just someone like Josh Hart, especially if Josh Hart isn't playing well either. But that's hopefully something he can work out.
Yes. Well said in the last part. Really quick one before the last one that we have written here. This is my overreaction. Mitchell Robinson is going to play his way into the all defense conversation. I am grading my own overreaction as I'm going to be at a 6. I think this is actually slightly feasible. That's how impressed I've been with him so far. We don't have to have a long discussion about it, but I just wanted to get your thoughts.
Well, in that case, then he must be garnering at least one Defensive Player of the Year award vote. No,
it always has to be about you, Jeremy.
No,
it always has to be about you.
Yeah, no, but he's been fantastic. Like truly, from the moment that first preseason game where there were thoughts of like he looks too thick, and when I was seeing him in person, I didn't feel that way. He looked good. He looked like someone who was in the best shape of his life. Who I was really excited. And it's working. He's doing a great job. So yeah, I'll still go a little bit lower just because he's not flashy enough in the eyes of the voters to get the respect that a lot of his colleagues do. So I'll go with a 4.
That's fine. I do want to point out that as of Saturday night, so a grand total of 5 NBA nights worth of games, he joins Wemby and Giannis, or joined Wemby and Giannis, the only players averaging at least 2 blocks and 2 steals a game. So I thought that was kind of cool. All right. Last overreaction. The Knicks' early season schedule will put them in a massive hole. So couple things going on there. For one, like what defines a massive hole in like this Eastern Conference? What defines a massive hole for the Knicks in terms of their aspirations? And then there's the obvious part of it, which is like, will they actually lose a decent number of games because of their early season schedule? factoring all of that in, I'm going to, we're looking at their schedule, which I'll kill time with by saying at Cleveland, home for Cleveland, at Milwaukee, home for Clippers, Spurs, Hornets, and then I'll just read the road trip. And then actually at Boston, at Atlanta, at Washington, at Charlotte, at Minnesota, 5-game road trip. And then your reward for completing that is come back home to face the Heat and Suns. And then it gets a little easier. I'm going to go with a 3. And it's because of the massive hole part. I don't think that I think they will have a rough go of things. It would not surprise me if this team was under 500 for the first 15, 16, 17, 18, like ish games. I don't think that would constitute a massive hole. For me, a massive hole would be like the sort of start, and I've referenced it already on this podcast, that we saw in 2013-14 that they could not take out of. I don't think we're getting that. I think this team is good enough that they will figure out a way to get some wins, even if, it's adverse conditions.
I'll also go with a 3, but every time the Knicks were about to lose it, right? We're going to see the team go off the deep end last season. They always found a way to just win a game and then win another one, and they kept it together. And this is a unit that really doesn't. They're very resilient. They don't get too lost in this, and I think that it's easy for us to look at a very daunting schedule and be like, well, that's we're so used to the Knicks being a bad team and other teams being great teams, and yet we talk out of the other side of our mouth because we say how this is the most parity we've seen in the NBA and how long. So I really don't think that the bottom will fall off or fall out unless there's an injury. They bounce back. It's something that they're very comfortable with. They are comfortable with being uncomfortable. And it's wild to me because I am so used to a Knicks team that will just like get hit in the mouth and then take 4 more punches to be like, all right, I'm going to make a feeble attempt to punch back, and then just gets hit in the mouth 3 more times. This team is not like that. And that's a testament to, from the top down, of what they're able to do. So it's hard for me to lose faith. To me, this is a high floor team, and they're going to operate as such, even with a daunting schedule where they can rise to the occasion.
You know what the best evidence of this might be? And this is going to sound insane. They went 37-45 2 years ago, despite losing 17 out of 20 games during one stretch of that season, which, like, when you think about it, like, damn. Usually teams that are even capable of losing 17 of 20, let alone actually lose 17 of 20 games, like, those teams don't finish with 30 wins, let alone 37. And the Knicks did, because that's partially has to do with this coach. The coach was part of the reason they lost 17 of the 20, to be clear. But and part of this front office, and they want to win games, so they will figure out a way. Okay. That was your overreactions segment, which hopefully does not become a weekly thing. Although maybe we should incorporate somehow. Maybe we should incorporate one overreaction a week and like do this, because that could be fun. Game ball, which you get to award the first game ball. Congratulations. I say sincerely, congratulations. Do you want to wait? How did this work? The person who awards the first game ball reads the candidates, or do I always read the candidates?
You've traditionally read the candidates, and then you'll get to do detention first.
There you go. Okay. Our candidates: RJ Barrett. Good. As always, I just read what Andrew has on the page. Good first game. Personal best second game. Fine third game. Mitchell Robinson, number 1 in the NBA in total offensive rebounds through Sunday. That and offensive rebounds per game. Jalen Brunson hit a career high 8 threes in the win on Friday. Emmanuel Quickley, 24 points on 11 field goal attempts and 5 made threes in the opener versus Boston. And last but not least, Julius Randle, near triple-double, and made a huge crunch time free throws versus Atlanta. Yeah, don't forget about those. Jeremy Cohen, your game ball goes to
RJ Barrett.
There you go.
But I want to add, I talked glowingly about RJ. Happy to do it again. Again, feels like a proof of concept. Great to see the continuation of a lot of the stuff that we saw last playoffs, even with the inconsistency that at times happened there. This feels like a more consistent factor. sorry, I want to give RJ his flowers. He deserves them. I want to add an honorable mention. Again, not my pick, but an honorable mention here that is not on the list. And I actually want to give that honorable mention to a one Scott Perry, because Scott Perry spoke, he had a very good podcast where he talked about a lot of the tricks of the trade when he was with the Knicks, and everything that he said resonated with me. Perry has this mixed reputation because he's been with terrible teams. He's been with great teams. You could say, well, he's been with terrible teams, so clearly his impact's not there.
It's a good call.
Oh, well, he's been with the Pistons and they won a championship, but he didn't have a part in doing that. Yeah. That was Dumars. So it's
damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Yeah.
Right. And the way that he spoke about the Knicks and their thought process that went into this felt very reassuring to me, because again, a lot can be made of Leon Rose speaking to the media or not. To me, that's not really what gets me going. But a former employee, having them talk about their insight when they were with the team, not someone who's giving trade secrets and is already on track to now continue out with that plan, that's a different story. And so to hear Scott Perry talk about the Donovan Mitchell trade, where, I mean, we've said similar things in the past of how much to give up. And I really loved who I would imagine might potentially be receiving a game ball. Just the way that he talked about Mitchell Robinson maybe being like the greatest, I can't remember the exact word that he used, but how
something
proud he was.
Proud of.
Yeah. Just in terms of taking Mitchell Robinson, who didn't have the structure, the infrastructure support that a lot of other players might have, and becoming a player who has been pretty damn good so far. Like that resonated, how high character and high feel he has for the game. So I really enjoyed hearing that. All that being said, it's still RJ Barrett. Results on the court matter the most to me right now, and that's what RJ has been doing.
Amen to that. And I think Scott, let's not also forget Scott Perry drafted RJ Barrett and spoke also about RJ on that podcast. Said some very nice things. I am going to go with Mitch. I would be remiss not to mention the fact that Jalen Duren is having a very nice start to his second season. Certainly putting himself in the most improved player conversation early on, although I think he will be the second leading candidate on his own team, because I think Cade Cunningham, if any Pistons going to win this thing, it's going to be Cade Cunningham. Duren's been awesome, and like I'm not going to sit here and be like I know for a fact that the Knicks were there was no world where the Knicks should have or shouldn't have should have. It's a possibility that Jalen Duren continues to progress and turns into the sort of center where the Knicks absolutely fucked up by not keeping him. And this isn't even about the salary ramifications, which we talked about extensively at the time. And long and the short of it is, if they took on a player with that pick, it would have made the numbers a little bit more difficult to crunch as far as signing Jalen Brunson and certainly Isaiah Hartenstein. Whether or not they could have still pulled it off, possibility. My own larger point there is that if we're going to have that conversation about that draft, the guy to focus on is not Jalen Duren, it's Jalen Williams, who is in Oklahoma City and looks like he's going to be a big time wing for years to come. Again, different conversation. We could have that at a later time as his career progresses. The larger point is the Knicks were about to enter an unrestricted free agency discussion with Mitchell Robinson that summer. And they clearly identified Mitchell Robinson as someone that they wanted to continue to build around as their center. Mitchell Robinson is a damn good version of the player that Jalen Duren is. Jalen Duren might have a higher ceiling as that version of player, but Mitchell Robinson, man, what he's doing right now, and what have we always consistently complained about with this team? We've consistently complained about they don't know a good thing when it hits them. They got a good thing with Mitchell Robinson. Scott Perry talked about how they got a good thing with Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson has been everything this organization could have wanted, given where he was drafted and more. And that he's gotten to continue the opportunity to get better and play himself into a bigger role. Dude played 38 minutes against the Hawks and then came out the next night and played a lot of minutes against the Pelicans, in which I would argue he was the best player in that game. I just think instead of talking about, hey, there's this other player out there that plays basically like Mitch does. I know there's some slight differences in their skill set. Boy, the Knicks really screwed up by not getting him on their team. How about we appreciate the guy that we have who is awesome? And I think will, like I said a minute ago, if he keeps playing like this, I think he's absolutely going to make a run at an all defense team and maybe get that defensive player of the year vote, which someone may have spoken about. So that is my game ball. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say on Mitch, but
it's well said. I think there's a valid question about like, oh, well, what if you had Duren instead of Hartenstein? I get it, but also if you, I don't love the falsehood of like that goes into the salary portion with Brunson and Duren and all that stuff. Like it wasn't. You could have still signed Jalen Brunson and had Jalen Duren. It's not like the Knicks salary dumped Duren and Kemba Walker. Like it's not that. But to me, it's just a broader point of like it doesn't always have to be about the Knicks. It doesn't always have to be about what the Knicks did wrong. Yeah. It can be, but it doesn't always have to be. And to your point, we can talk about what is here and focus on that positively. Not saying don't.
Which is pretty good.
Not saying don't focus on other things. You're allowed to look at them. Obviously, I'm not gatekeeping what you can and can't do. But from my vantage point, I just don't care enough. I don't lose any sleep over that fact because what the Knicks have, pretty damn good. So I enjoy that. And I'm going to keep enjoying that.
As should we all, is what I would strongly recommend. Okay, Detention. Given for anybody who may be new to the show, I should probably have said this for Game Ball. This Game Ball is given to someone who excelled during the week. Detention is given to someone who, if they were in high school or middle school, should be put in detention for their actions. Okay, detention candidates. A lot of repeat offenders here. From the Game Ball section, Julius Randle. I didn't know this until I'm just reading it now. Of the 19 players with at least 45 field goal attempts, going into Sunday's games, he currently has the lowest effective field goal percentage at 340. Jalen Brunson, 10 for 35 in the Knicks' 2 losses this season. Manuel Quickley, 8 for 23 and 1 for 12 from 3 since opening night. And then 2 more. The NBA officials made the incorrect flopping call on Jalen Brunson in game 1, a potential 4-point swing and a 4-point loss. And they also missed the same call in the Pelicans game when he landed on somebody's foot. And then I guess for all our football fans out there, Brian Daboll or Kayvon Thibodeau or Graham Gano, LMA, how many O's is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. LMA at the Giants for losing the toilet bowl to the Jets, Jets. Andrew, I read it exactly how you wrote it. So be thankful for that. You know what? It's early. I don't want to be harsh against any of our players. I'm going with the officials. The officials get my detention. The worst part of that for me, the Celtics call, the 4-point swing potentially with the Tatum, what should have been reviewed for a flagrant, is the NBA official Twitter account for the referees. The tweet they sent out where it's like, if he did not land on his foot, his subsequent actions would have been absolutely a valid flopping call or something to that effect, where I was like, well, great. If I was 7'5", I'd probably be a basketball player. Like, what the fuck? Like, who gives like the fact that they thought to put that in the tweet and actually hit send, if the guy's foot hadn't been there, like the fucking guy's foot was there and you ignored it.
But John, have you considered if it hadn't?
Oh my God. Saying. What are we doing here? The official, and just even more so, the officiating has been atrocious. I think, and it seems like it gets worse every year. The officiating was bad in the Pelicans game. It's not why they lost. It certainly didn't help matters. So, like, come on, guys. You have one freaking job to do. Like, get. I know it's a hard job, but like, you don't have to be this bad at it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I wouldn't have picked the refs only because the refs weren't the reason the Knicks missed all those free throws.
True.
They weren't the reason Kristaps Porzingis was nuclear. But at the same time, I agree. I also just am not in the mood to blame any individual players, even though there is deserve of blame. So I'm going to go with the New York Football Giants because why not? And I'll put them in detention. Another season down the tubes. It's great. Love it. It's so bad that you've got Andrew Claudio laughing at your team. Andrew Claudio, who's never seen a parade with his team in his life, is laughing at you. Wow. The New York Giants. Yeah, I had to say it. He put it on the sheet, so I'm gonna.
That was like.
He made it personal, so I made it personal back. Love you, Andrew, but you know I'm right. So with the Giants, just at this point, tanking doesn't even really, to me, like tanking football is not the same at all. So it'll be great to see the Giants finish with the, I don't know, 4th, 5th worst record, get one of those picks, and hopefully not screw that one up.
Hopefully.
But again, it's basketball season.
I like when the Giants are good. I don't really like. I would say I like it when the Jets are good, but the Jets are never good. I like it when the Giants are good. It's entertaining on Sundays to turn them on. Okay, predictions. Here we go. As I alluded to earlier, Jeremy Cohen, congratulations. You won the week. I told you I would have picked 1 and 2 as well. You picked it before I could, so good job by you. This week's games. Halloween affair at Cleveland. And then the very next night, coming home to New York to face that same Cleveland team. Cavs, like the Knicks, by the way, are 1 and 2. So, some pressure on both sides. We should note Darius Garland missed Cleveland's last game at least. I don't know if he missed the one before that. So I don't know what the update is on him. Maybe he's dealing with some kind of injury. Same thing with Jared Allen. So we'll see what's going on there. And then Friday night, which we'll talk about again in a moment because we're doing a watch party at the Milwaukee Bucks. That is an ESPN game. The Bucks, interestingly enough, tonight are getting killed in the fourth quarter by the Hawks in Milwaukee. They're losing 118-90 as I say this with 6 minutes left in that game. Excuse me, 120-90. So, the Bucks juggernaut has hit a momentary speed bump at least. But anyway, I'll turn it over to you.
I'm going to go 2-1. I thought I'd surprise you. Yeah. See, that was my initial reaction.
Surprise isn't even the word.
That was my initial thought, because I'm sure you thought, I would go with 1 and 2, and now you have to determine going with 0 and 3 or 2 and 1, and eventually you go with 0 and 3. It's probably how you would have operated.
I would have gone 2 and 1. I would have thought about going 0 and 3.
Sure, of course.
I would have gone 2 and 1.
So I'm going to say 2 and 1. Here's why. I think you can pick off one of those games against Cleveland.
Okay.
I feel good about the Milwaukee game, because I think the Bucks look, it doesn't matter, because it's the whole point is I need to just get 2 this week. But here's my thought process. The Bucks are still fine tuning what they have, and that's going to take some time. So many of these super teams just needed a little bit of time to iron these parts out. And the Knicks, knowing that this Friday is going to be an in-season tournament game, are going to put a lot of effort into this. And I just wonder if the Bucks are going to care, because at the end of the day, the prize that really resonates with them, the reason Giannis stays in Milwaukee, is to win the NBA Finals, not an in-season tournament. Not to say that they won't care about it, but I just wonder if the Knicks will bring a level of emphasis to this. And I don't know. I feel good about 2 and 1. There's something to be said of walking into the Clippers game that's on, I believe, November 6th, 3 and 3, as opposed to 2 and 4. So I'm just, nice. I'm going to, again, it goes back to the point of when we felt like the bottom was going to fall out, that team was fine. So I'm going to go 2 and 1.
I love that you went 2 and 1, not because I would have taken 1 and 2 as my first choice, but I love the positivity. I wish I had that right now. I like you, and I think probably like a lot of people, I think they're going to split the Cavs games because it's just really hard to take 2 games in a row against the same team. And I think the Bucks, until I'm proven otherwise, I'm going to think that the Bucks are a bad matchup for the Knicks. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I hope you're right. So
there's an issue though. The Knicks actually in the year of 2023 haven't beaten the Cavs in back-to-back games. It hasn't happened. So until that does happen, I mean, I agree. We have to assume it just won't.
Very funny. To my point about the Bucks, though, I think they are like 20, some obscene thing, like 24-4, or it's the other way around. The Bucks are like 24-4 when Giannis plays, or something like that, in their last however many games against them. They had success against Giannis in his rookie season. Since then, they've won like a handful of games. Hopefully that tide turns. Okay. Announcements. Let's go back and forth with these. You want to start it off?
Sure. We have our KFS watch party. It's this Friday at Penn 6. That's on West 31st Street. So this is a ticketed event. It's going to be $20 ahead of time, in advance, $25 at the door. There's food. It's really good food.
Yeah, you're going to get at least $20 worth of food. So your ticket is basically to pay for the food that you're going to eat. Right.
That's like, if you're gonna have dinner anyway, you might as well have dinner here. Watch the game with us. We're really excited about it. We've got a whole bunch of the KFS group coming in to watch this game. It should be a lot of fun. I will also be there, assuming I have to fly that day, assuming that my flight gets in okay. There will be drink specials as well. We're gonna have a really good time. So stop by, hang out. We're excited to do it and cheer on the Knicks in the very first in-season tournament game that they've ever had.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. The food at Penn 6 is really good. We got our own private space. It's going to be all Knicks fans. Games going to be on. Sound's going to be on. I think $5 beers, a couple other drink specials and stuff. So it'll be a great time. Okay, that's number one. X's and O's live on the YouTube channel, Twitter, and Facebook on Monday at 8 p.m. So for anybody who may not be familiar, X's and O's live is when Benji and DJ Zulo come on the YouTube channel live, and they share their thoughts on what they've seen from an X's and O's standpoint, and more importantly, answer your questions. So be there, be square, 8 p.m. on Monday, which, as you were listening to this, is today. And again, that is on the YouTube channel, and I guess as well as Twitter and Facebook at 8 p.m. on Monday. You're up.
Andrew, aka GMAC, will have a pregame pod. One will be on Tuesday with Justin Rowan of the Chase Down, and the other will be on Friday with Ty Windish of the Hero Step.
Yeah. Good pronunciation of Hero. We're doing so. For anybody who may have missed it on opening night, we're going to do a couple more KFS watch-alongs on Tuesday and Wednesday, both games against Cleveland. If you tune into the Knicks Film School YouTube channel, tip-off 7:30 p.m. both of those nights, you get to watch us watch the game and react to the game in real time, which I found to be quite amusing and fun during the opener. And I think it'll be the same for what will probably be two tense games against the Cavs. So, come and hang out.
Casuals will return on Friday. Good old casual Friday. Have a feeling that I know what Mensa will lead with. Could be wrong, but my guess is it's the lack of playing time for Evan Fournier, because that's what Mensa is most passionate about these days.
Sure it is. Also, Study Hall will be available on podcast feeds at noon on Monday. Study Hall that happened this weekend. And then I'll just read this last one. Me and GMAC did a wins draft on the KFS Patreon pod. That's the weekly bonus podcast that we release on the Patreon feed for all Mellow tier members and up. You could sign up to hear the full episode. Wins draft, for anybody who doesn't know, is we went back and forth. We drafted all 30 teams. Whoever ends up with the most wins at the end of the season wins. So I hope I win, because I never win anything on these pods. It'd be nice to win something once in a blue moon. Sign up for the Patreon. That is it. Did we forget anything?
I think that's all.
All right. Man, I hope we're talking about a 3-3 basketball team this time next week. That would be nice. Although, again, it's early. Just keep repeating that to yourself. Jeremy Cohen, thank you as always. You're the man, and good job mixing a children's juice box with tequila. Thank you, APJP, for producing this episode, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you back for more fun and games very soon. In the meantime, feel free to drop a 5-star review, leave or 5-star rating, leave a review, and of course, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come join in all the fun that we provide here at Knicks Film School. We will talk to you soon. Peace out.